Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today we are talking about immature men and their mothering partners. Immature men and their mothering partners. And this particular audio, for some of you all who are into psychology, you will understand this particular subject as being Peter Pan syndrome and, of course, Wendy syndrome. Okay, and we're going to talk about both of these for those individuals who do not know what is Peter Pan syndrome and what is Wendy syndrome. For some of you spiritual types, you might want to check out my audio on Jezebel and Ahab. Jezebel may have been like Wendy in terms of the Wendy syndrome, and Ahab may have been like Peter Pan. Jezebel wanted to get some things done. It was Jezebel's God that she put in front of Ahab. She was responsible for taking a man out. And basically, she had her agendas. Ahab, he had his as well, but he wasn't as deceiving as Jezebel. Jezebel most likely mothered Ahab in the sense that she was making decisions for him. She was interjecting herself into business that she didn't really need to be a part of. So once again, if you are unfamiliar with Jezebel and Ahab in the Bible, I suggest that you do some reading. But I'm going to focus in on the Peter Pan syndrome and the Wendy syndrome because, well, the Lord, he has a way of showing me some things to make it plain for some people in these intimate relationships where we have a woman who is mothering her partner and we have a man who is unfortunately not wanting to grow up. And you may be in something like this, or you may be a witness to it. And it turned you off, I'm sure, to see this sort of thing. So what is Peter Pan syndrome? Well, according to syndromespedia.com, Peter Pan syndrome is a disorder in which a man is unable to grow into maturity. They may grow physically as an adult, but choose to hang on to their childhood in avoidance of assuming responsibility like a mature person. They are men who stay as boys inside. Now hold that thought. What is Wendy syndrome? Well, according to psychologist Dan Kiley, who defined Peter Pan syndrome in 1983, also used the term Wendy syndrome to describe women who act like mothers with their partners or people close to them. Wendy is the woman behind Peter Pan. She is that someone who deals with the things Peter Pan doesn't do in order for him to, quote unquote, survive. And that was taken from powerwithinwomen.com. So we are going to look at both of these individuals, and hopefully those of you all who see yourself in this particular audio will, first of all, pray. Second, you might want to get connected to a spiritual counselor or psychologist because most often these issues are affecting your intimate relationship with a partner. And 3, you are going to want to take whatever information you learn and apply it to your life. So it's not just about talking about it, but you are also proactive in making sure that you are not carrying on with a Peter Pan or Wendy syndrome. Most often people who are in situations like this, they do not recognize that that's what's going on. And a couple comes to mind when I was going through this information. This particular couple, for years, the woman has been running the show in the relationship. She has been the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, while the man, he does his part to a certain extent, but he still very much has his immature ways about him. There's a heavy reliance on Wendy, and Wendy is making sure that everything is taken care of, just like a mother takes care of a child. Unfortunately, my friends, that is not a sound relationship. No matter how much one wants to say, oh, we're good, we're okay, we're all right. So, Peter Pan. Peter Pans are also imprisoned in the result given by the freedom of youth. Now, remember, in Enterprise 7, we are about release. We are about freeing people up out of situations that emotionally, physically, and spiritually bind them. So, Peter Pan, he, if you think back to the book, Peter Pan, written by J.M. Barrie, this was about a boy who doesn't want to grow up and lives in Neverland, where people do not grow old. Peter Pan syndrome can affect both men and women, but it is most often seen in the male population. So we have these individuals who simply don't want to grow up. Okay. And this is what frustrates Wendy, because Wendy wants to see her husband or boyfriend grow up. But then at the same time, though, she is not allowing that to happen, because she wants to mother him. She wants to take care of everything. She's got to be front and center. Okay. So here are some of the symptoms of Peter Pan syndrome, according to the article. Either excessive outbursts of emotion or blunt in effect. So running off at the mouth at times, getting very angry, reacting in ways that are just not mature, right? Anger to the point of wrath, happiness that turns into extreme panic, frustrated about any number of things, and that frustration leads to self-pity and depression. So he's pouting, okay? He's upset, he's sad, he's not going to convey his feelings in the way that he should. He has difficulty expressing them, especially feelings of love. He always feels guilty. He has difficulty relaxing. He's undependable. Cannot depend on him to do certain things. That's why Wendy steps it up. That's why Wendy is there making the phone calls. She's taking care of all things that are important. Okay. Plus some. And manipulative tendencies. So just like a teen, just like a child, these Peter Pan males, they will manipulate. Okay. And they will, of course, deny that that's what they're doing when they are confronted. Now, individuals with this syndrome have a hard time building strong and genuine relationships with peers. Okay, so this is why sometimes their friendships even suffer too. As a result, they feel extremely alone. They are also not bothered by the wrong things that they've done. So you tell them, listen, I don't appreciate you acting like a child, being disrespectful, calling me names, pouting, complaining over every little thing. I mean, you don't even express your feelings to me. You don't tell me that you love me, like me, care for me, anything, right? Oh, they're not going to accept that feedback. Instead, they're going to blame you and blame anybody else that they can for all of their weaknesses. They tend to move away from real problems concerning their weaknesses, which can cause them to use prohibited drugs and abuse alcohol, which I know some individuals like this. And it's unfortunate because, see, once they start messing around with the drugs and the alcohol, that's when police are called. That's when folks end up in jail overnight or for a long period of time. It's a lot of ugly things that take place once drugs and alcohol show up in the relationship with this individual who has Peter Pan syndrome. And they do this because they don't want to face responsibilities. They want to escape life. Oh, it's too stressful. And a lot of times Wendy is strict. Wendy is beating him over the head about some things. You better get this done or else. If you don't, I'm telling you, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. You see? So let me just go get me a drink, right? Let me get me a drug real quick because this woman's driving me up the wall, right? So it's interesting, on the site, there's this quote. It says, "We are left with indefinite adolescence and a Peter Pan syndrome epidemic where men want to remain boys forever." And it's sad when you got individuals who encourage this sort of behavior. You got the mother who's doing this, the friends who's doing this. They're saying things like, "Oh, that's my boy. He'll always be my boy. I love him so, boo boo boo," you know, this type of thing. And the man is 30, 40 plus years old. Come on now. So What causes Peter Pan syndrome? Well, overprotective parents. Yes, once again, we are directing our attention toward parents. According to the top psychologist, Peter Pan syndrome may be a result of overprotective parents because it hinders the child from growing to maturity and to exhibit their own skills to face life's challenges. Oh, son, you don't need to do that. Oh, dad will take care of that. Oh, don't you worry about that. You just stay in your room and you stay out of trouble. You watch your siblings. You leave out, I'll beat you silly. This sort of thing. And he wants to be on his best behavior. He doesn't want to upset daddy. He doesn't want to upset mom. Mom might slap me. Mom might take something from me. I'm going to stay in my room. And meanwhile, it's 10, 15, 20, 30 years done passed, and he's still pretty much going to his room. He's not looking to be independent. Okay. So it started way back then. And now when he finally does get the courage to go ahead and be a man and he meets someone, but he's been under all of that overprotection for so many years, he's going to gravitate towards someone who's going to make him feel secure, someone who's going to act similar to his mother or his father. Okay. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a same-sex relationship or a heterosexual. The point is that these syndromes take place in these relationships. And in this case, it started with the overprotective parents. Peter Pan syndrome was defined by psychologist Dan Kiley, as I stated earlier. Now, let's go over there to Wendy syndrome, and we will get into how Peter Pan syndrome is linked with narcissism, because I know for some of you all, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, it sounds a little bit narcissistic, this Peter Pan syndrome. Absolutely, and we're going to get into that. Wendy. Okay, so Wendy is making every decision. Okay. We already established Peter. He's having his emotional outbursts. He's immature. He doesn't want to take on responsibilities. Okay. It's not that he can't do it. It's just that he's unwilling to do it because, well, Wendy's going to take care of it. So Wendy is the overprotecting mother. Okay. Both Peter Pan and Wendy, according to the powerwithinwomen.com site, both of these individuals do not acknowledge that they are having a problem. They aren't aware of it. As I indicated earlier, the only solution for it is psychological treatment, not only centered on the person, but also on the partner and the family. Well, this is a faith-based channel, so I'm going to say that the solution can also be prayer. Hello. Okay. We can bring God in on this. We can pray that Wendy will stop being like a mother to her husband or boyfriend, that Peter Pan will grow up and start acting more like Tinkerbell. You see what I mean? Or Wendy will start acting more like Tinkerbell. I mean, somebody has to be wise. Somebody has to be a guide. Somebody has to recognize where they are weak and where they are not helping, but they're actually hurting the relationship. The Wendy syndrome is about women who are very dependent upon their mates in a special way. They mother their mates. They treat them like immature children. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, honey, I'll take care of that. You go over there, you sit down, right? Like what we do as mothers with our children. Okay, stay out the way. I got this. I'll take care of this. You see. And men who think, oh, she's such a good woman. She's wonderful. She's sweet. She stands by her man. Oh, some of these Peter Pan men, they just don't see that, no, she's weakening you. And that's why they end up turning on these women too. I'm tired of you acting like my mother. I got a mother already. I don't need you telling me this, that, and the other. Okay. But you let her from day one. You let her manage everything while you sat in front of the television. You let her take care of everything while you were doing your little hobbies. Okay. And so she feels like she has a right to handle anything and everything, including talking down to you too. Because you don't know anything. I'm educated. I got money. I'm older than you. I know more. Because sometimes Wendy is older. Okay. She been around the block. She know a thing or two. And she's not about to let you do too much of anything. But be there every now and again for her. And do things in the way that she says or else. These women, Wendy women, usually state, I feel like I have 3 children instead of 2 because I have my husband too. You hear that? The Wendy woman attempts to control situations with her man through inappropriate mothering. She is a very insecure woman. Some of you all, you witnessed her looking all crooked eye, looking people up and down during family events, acting strange. She's insecure. She cannot handle her anger. Once she leaves that family event, she's going to take it out on that man. Oh, you had a lot to say at the family event. You were doing this. You were saying that. I mean, I told you not to mention this. I told you not to do this, that, and the other. Now he wants to try to play like he is standing up for himself. But, you know, Peter Pan, right? He still wants to be a boy. But yet now in this situation, he wants to man up. And Wendy's not going to let him. So she cannot handle her anger, either her own or her partner's. So she takes on this maternal role toward her mate. She feels protected from the possible rejection and abandonment that, in her opinion, inevitably results from exchanges of anger. He's not listening to me. Every time I tell him something, he rejects me. I mean, I feel abandoned. I feel like he just doesn't want me around and all of this other stuff. Well, would you want you around if you were doing all of this mothering and controlling and everything else? And she has a negative self-image of herself. She feels like she's inferior. But when she gets around this individual and she's mothering him, now she feels empowered. And when he says things like, oh, thank you. You're so sweet. I love you. I knew I married the right woman when I got involved with you. Oh, you're such a help, you see. Then she feels like, yes, he appreciates me very much. So back to mothering she goes. Wendy syndrome, lacking in self-identity. She doesn't have an identity. And she takes on possibly her mother's identity, however her mother treated her husband or anyone she had been influenced by growing up. She has missing opinions of her own. And she's not in touch with her own likes or dislikes. So a lot of times these women are talking about we this and we that. And well, my husband said, and my husband did this, and my husband, it's always about husband. Well, what about you? What do you think? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I just want him to be happy. I just want him to be okay with this. Really? So you don't have an opinion? They base their security on the approval of others. Wendy presents an acceptable social image that is of high importance. So the world has to see her family as very important, her husband as a wonderful guy. But she may tell people who's really close to her something else. Okay, like, I can't stand this man. I got to do everything for him. I mean, if I wanted a son, I would have went on and had a son. You see. So certain people know the truth, but those who she really wants to impress, well, she's got to put on airs, right? Or if she's jealous of other people's relationships, she's got to blow hers up. Here are some typical behaviors of women who are caught in the so-called Wendy trap. The woman denies that problems exist. So we see some issues. We talk to her about all of her mothering and the way she's acting and this. And she says, honey, that's not me. Okay. We have an equal relationship. I don't act like that. Maybe that's about you and not about me. So she's in denial. She tends to start believing that her mate cannot survive without her. She'll even say things like, oh no, he can't do anything without me. Don't even give that information to him. He doesn't know what he's doing. He gets easily frustrated over all sorts of stuff, Ugh. It's like having a child, you see. She's possessive, right? This occurs when Wendy starts feeling dependent upon her mate, feeling that she cannot survive emotionally or perhaps financially without him. So everybody stay away. This is my man. This is his money. And I got to make sure that I got my place. So anybody who might threaten this thing, well, I got to make sure that he doesn't have that connection with him. So this could even include daughters and sons. Nope. You don't need to know too much of anything about what's going on. I will give you the information. He doesn't like to talk. He doesn't like to meet with the family. He's not into people like that. So what is it? What is it that you want me to do or tell him? Okay, I'll let him know. See, very possessive. She complains about any number of things. She's also she also uses guilt to get him to do some things and other people as well. So this isn't just about the intimate relationship, but she does this with everyone. She gets possessive with her friends, and when they start talking about wanting to go somewhere and do something else, well, you don't want to go out with her, or you better watch who you're talking to, and you better make sure that this, that, and the other. She's always got something going on there, basically to keep you close to her. She's going to complain once again about whatever it is that you're doing or someone else is doing, and then going back to that guilt again. She's got to make you feel guilty about something, because once again, it's power and control, even with Wendy. Okay, we talk about abusive men and women and that sort of thing, but Wendy, she has her abusive ways about her, controlling ways. So Peter Pan, he may do what Wendy wants, but he'll be mad at her for making him do it. I didn't need you to persuade me, convince me, force me to do this and that. Well, you didn't act like you was interested. Well, I'm just saying. And here you go again, trying to tell me what to do. Blah, blah, blah. Once again, Peter Pan, he opened up that door for Wendy. And that's why Wendy feels like she can do and say what she wants. Okay? She shoulders an enormous degree of responsibility, according to the site, for her husband's and her children in attempts to minimize her high anxiety level. Okay, so these folks, they also suffer with anxiety. In the meanwhile, the man's fear of rejection and habitual guilt feelings have usually led him into a passive, yes, dear. Well, whatever the wife says. Oh, I mean, I don't want to stir that whole situation up. I'll just do whatever she says. Okay? Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so he superficially agrees with his spouse to avoid arguments, but then continues his own behavior without changing, frustrating her more and more. I told you to do it this way. I told you we needed this. I told you we should have bought this. And there you go again. So he puts on a front, whatever the wife says, but then he may get behind closed doors and do something else, or not agree with what she has suggested, or fight back, or act like that rebellious teen and pouts and I don't want to talk to you. Okay, so the man engages in a great deal of passive aggressive behavior, indirectly expressing his pent up hostility toward his mate. Okay, and so you can do some more research on Miss Wendy. Miss Wendy has a lot of stuff that goes on with her. Okay, and the sad part about it is some of these Wendy's, when she feels like she's being punished, or she feels like she's not being appreciated, but she has, let's say, has her life together. Let's say that she's very educated, has some money or what have you, and she's around a lot of men. Some of these women, they don't mind stepping out. Well, he's just a boy. He can stay at home in front of his little video games and his television or whatever else he likes. But there's a brother, or there's a really nice guy that I want to talk to. And off she goes, you see. Once she gets to that place where she just can't take all of this any longer, she's stressed out because she took on this mother role. She sees that it has affected possibly people around her, not just herself. She sees that that what she used to do to kind of cope, to bring peace, even though the man is doing what he's doing, it's not working. So then that's when she wants to go to the church, or she wants to seek a counselor, or she wants to talk to her family about her issues, and the family's shocked because, remember, she was putting on airs as if everything was great and wonderful and nice and sweet with everybody, when in all actuality, everything is imploding, and she's really not so nice and so helpful and so sweet like she wants people to believe. Now, going back to Peter Pan syndrome, the narcissism that I was going to get into, this isn't the narcissism like the egoist type of narcissism that goes on with Peter Pan. Instead, according to the syndromespedia.com site, it says these Peter Pans tend to be absorbed with imaginative comfort in their minds, which attracts them to introspection. This leads them to be imprisoned. Here we go. That bondage again that I told you we got to be free from. This leads them to be imprisoned by childhood fantasy. not the realities and difficulties of life that they need to overcome. So I know that this issue is right there, says Peter Pan, but I don't want to deal with it. I know what she told me, but I don't want to deal with it. So he goes back into his little childhood fantasies of his first crush and how things were so sweet and nice. And he's pulling up different movies and he's watching them and he's wishing for good times again. And he just goes off into some little la la land. Okay. Would not be surprised if every now and again he sits back and he's watching cartoons or some type of childhood or child related type of show. Okay. Because remember, Peter Pan is nothing more than a boy with an adult body. Okay. The Peter Pan syndrome is not genetically inherited. Okay. Once again, this is something that is based on environmental influences. It goes back to how he was raised by his parents. Okay. So there are those diagnoses out there that people have been connected to the Peter Pan or Wendy syndrome. Okay. So if you should hear something about this or stumble across something, now you know. Okay. All I can say when it comes to any type of personality disorder, psychological issue, you've got to be in prayer if you claim to be a Christian or a person of faith. These things a lot of times are also spiritual. Okay. People don't recognize them. The enemy's messing with them in some kind of way, keeping them bound by the relationships that they get themselves connected to. So if I don't see what is taking place with me, I'm not going to know what to do. And sometimes these audios, they expose things so that you know how to deal with your personal issues or deal with those who are struggling with something similar like this Peter Pan and Wendy syndrome. Okay. There are those things that people just don't want to face. So you may sit down and say, you know what, honey, I think that we need to talk about some things. And then you bring this up. If I'm not wanting to receive that, I'm not. If I think that you've been on the internet too long, checking out some things, okay, yeah, whatever. And they're going to go right back into doing what they're doing. You have to make up in your mind whether or not you can deal with somebody who has a syndrome like Peter Pan or Wendy. Peter Pan syndrome, these folks got low self-esteem, so that affects other areas of their lives, okay? They don't feel motivated to do too much of anything, right? Protective parents didn't require too much from them, or maybe they did later in life, but the point is, hey, I feel young. I like this boyish way about me, so this is what I'm going to do. And so meanwhile, Wendy's like, but you got to be more responsible. You got to get out there. Don't you start this foolishness again. We got bills to pay. We got kids. Yeah, whatever. Low self-esteem, unmotivated. They feel depressed. They go through these little issues, or they end up becoming bigger ones, depending on the individual. It may be for a short time period or for a long duration. You never know. But these individuals having Peter Pan syndrome do not usually exhibit the self-confidence, motivation, and determination that are keys for being successful. And once again, this is according to syndromespedia.com. So another thing to tackle, right? I know some of you all, you just don't want to hear another thing about family or people that are around you, but hey, this is the God that we serve. He exposes and he will continue to expose. I did not anticipate learning anything about this sort of thing, but God moved on me and I saw, and now I'm sharing with you. So once again, be in prayer for that man who is struggling with the boyish types of stuff that's going on inside of him. Be in prayer for Wendy, who wants to mother not only her partner, but everybody else too. And if it gets to be too much with people who have these sorts of syndromes, remember, you don't get yourself caught up in the bondage. You get yourself away from it. And if you do suspect that somebody is acting like this in your circle and it's starting to grate on your nerves, then you can always go low contact or no contact with these folks, okay? A quality relationship, a functional relationship, there's compromise. There is listening involved, and not just listening, but doing as well. You recognize that there are some things you can't change in a person, so you're willing to tolerate some things. There are those times where, yes, you depend on one another, but it's healthy. And you can share your thoughts and your feelings, and you don't have to worry about, oh, is he going to pay me back? Is she going to do something bad to me? Is she going to punish me? Things like that. You're realistic about what the problems are. And you are not using sex, right, to hurt someone by like withholding it. You are being affectionate in a healthy relationship. You're not sitting back saying, I'm not going to give him none because he treated me this way and that way and all of that. If you really want a quality relationship, you've got to recognize where the shortcomings are and then work as a couple on them. But sometimes I understand perfectly. One person is on board. Yes, I like this information. I'm going to do something with it. And the other one's like, don't you come over here and start changing up anything, you see. And when you have someone who's unwilling, we can't force them. God didn't force us to start walking with him, right? So we can't force that person to start changing. Maybe absence will make the heart grow fonder. So maybe you have to distance yourself. For some people, they are so fed up that they've already made up in their minds it's a legal separation or divorce, case closed. And in others, they have learned how to just deal with it. Okay? So there you have it. Thank you as always for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. You've been listening to YouTube Enterprise 7. Subscribe today. Also check the description box for anything that might be of interest, especially my books on Tell Me Mother You're Sorry and Say Goodbye to Dad, because we did mention about the overprotective parents and how they do influence Peter Pan syndrome. And also, if you haven't given, we do welcome donations. So by all means, please do give, and thank you in advance. Blessings once again to you.